My brother's fiancée forced herself on me, then accused me of SA. My own brother and dad beat me, and my family disowned me. Now I've exposed her lies, and they're all begging me for help. Sup, Reddit. When my brother's fiancée kissed me at a family dinner, I froze like a deer in headlights, and suddenly, I'm the villain. Funny how quick everyone believed her, and how much they regretted it later. Grab some popcorn because this gets intense. My brother Dean got everything handed to him his entire life, while I got diagnosed with autism at 22, and suddenly every awkward moment from my childhood made sense to everyone except my parents, who decided it was just another excuse for me being difficult. Dean was the football star who could do no wrong. I was the kid who spent lunch period in the computer lab because cafeterias were too loud, and eye contact felt like staring into the sun. He got a full ride to state school. I went to community college and worked nights at a warehouse because nobody wanted to hire the guy who couldn't handle staff meetings without needing 15 minutes alone afterward. Our parents treated Dean like he'd cured cancer. Me? I was the project that never quite worked out. Mom had this way of sighing whenever I walked into a room. Dad just pretended I wasn't there most of the time, unless he needed someone to blame for something, or unless he needed money. When I was 11, my grandma slipped me $100 for my birthday, told me not to tell my dad because he'll just blow it. I thought she was exaggerating. 2 days later, Dad borrowed it because he was short on bills. No written IOU, no plan. Just, you live here for free, you'll be fine. When I asked about it a week later, he stared at the TV and said, "You still have a roof over your head, don't you?" That was the first time I realized money in my hands wasn't really mine if he could reach it. Dean crashed Mom's car when he was 16, texting while driving. Dad's reaction? "You're learning, son. Just be more careful next time." When I forgot to take out the trash the same week, he went on for 10 minutes about responsibility and how I'd never make it in the real world with my attitude. School wasn't much better. In 8th grade, I had a sensory overload in the cafeteria. Lights, noise, too many people talking at once. I shut down and walked out without saying anything. The principal called my parents and said I'd been disrespectful and non-compliant. They didn't ask what happened. They didn't ask how I felt. They just grounded me for a month and took my computer. So yeah, by the time the diagnosis showed up at 22, it wasn't a surprise. It was more like finally getting the manual for a machine everyone had been yelling at for years. By the time I was 25, I'd figured out how to make my life work. The warehouse job paid decent, especially with overtime. I lived below my means in a studio apartment. No fancy car, no designer clothes, just basic living and a savings account that actually had money in it. I'd saved up almost 30 grand over 3 years. Had a plan to buy a small house eventually. Dean, meanwhile, was living paycheck to paycheck in a condo he couldn't afford, driving a truck he was underwater on, and hitting Dad's poker games twice a week. When Dean brought Roxy home 5 years ago, I knew she was trouble within 5 minutes. She figured out pretty quick that I was the family punching bag. Started small with little comments about how I should smile more. She'd make jokes about me being on the spectrum in front of everyone, then act confused when I didn't laugh. My parents would tell me to lighten up. Dean would tell me she was just being friendly. My girlfriend Kara saw it too. We'd been together for about 6 months at that point. She was patient with my quirks, never made me feel broken. She'd come to a few family dinners and always left looking exhausted. She tested boundaries constantly, made inappropriate comments, and watched how people reacted. Classic manipulation, but everyone thought she was just friendly. She targeted me specifically because I was the easiest mark, the family scapegoat. Nobody would believe me if I complained. She knew it. I knew it. The difference was she thought it made me vulnerable. Turned out it just made me careful. Chapter 2. The loan that started it all. The real problem started when Dad's gambling got worse. It was a Tuesday night when Dean showed up at my apartment without calling first. That alone told me something was wrong. Dean never came to my place. He looked terrible. Hadn't shaved in days. Eyes all red and puffy. Sat down on my couch and just stared at the floor for a solid minute before he could talk. Turned out he'd gotten in deep at one of Dad's poker games. Some guys Dad brought in from out of town. High stakes. Dean had been on a winning streak for a few weeks and got cocky. Bet way more than he should have. Lost 15 grand in one night. These weren't the kind of guys who accepted IOUs. They wanted their money within 2 weeks, or things were going to get ugly. Dean had already drained his savings covering previous losses. His credit cards were maxed. The condo had no equity. He finally spoke up. "I need $15,000. These guys aren't messing around. I can pay you back in 6 months, I swear. I'm done gambling after this." I should have said no, but he was crying. actually crying. My brother, who'd never shown me an ounce of vulnerability in our entire lives, was sitting on my cheap couch begging me to save him. "We'll need a promissory note," I said, "with interest and a payment schedule." He nodded immediately. We drew up a promissory note. $15,000, 7% interest, monthly payments of $300 starting in 1 month. He signed it without reading the terms. I transferred the money the next day. He thanked me about 50 times. Said I was saving his life. Said he'd never forget this. Roxy was there when he told her he'd gotten the money. I saw the look she gave me. This weird, calculating expression. The first payment never came. I texted Dean when it was 5 days late. "Been tight this month. I'll double up next month." That wasn't the agreement. "Seriously? You're going to be rigid about a few days?" Second month, no payment. I called him. "I'm working on it, all right? Roxy's real estate business is slow. Can you give me a break? We're family. The promissory note is legally binding." He laughed. Actually laughed. "You're not going to sue your own brother. Relax." Third month, I showed up at his place. He wouldn't answer the door even though I could see his truck in the lot and hear the TV inside. I left a note under his door. Found out later that same week, he'd won $2,000 at Dad's poker game and used it to buy Roxy an engagement ring. I called him the next day. "You just bought an engagement ring but can't make loan payments?" "The ring was important. Roxy deserves it. You wouldn't understand because you've never been serious about anyone. You just spent my money on jewelry while owing me $15,000 plus late fees. It's my money. I want it fair and square. You're being petty. Family shouldn't operate like a bank." I mentioned it at the next family dinner. Kept my tone neutral. "Dean found money for an engagement ring but can't find money for loan payments." Mom jumped on me immediately. "You're being jealous. Dean deserves to be happy. You're trying to ruin his engagement." Dad agreed. "You're acting like a loan shark. Dean will pay you back when he can." Roxy just smiled. "Drop it," Dean said. "You're embarrassing me." I stopped trying to collect after that. Started documenting everything instead. Every missed payment. Every excuse. Every time I saw him spending money he claimed not to have. Built a file. 6 months after Dean borrowed the money, my life imploded in a single night. Dean and Roxy were hosting a dinner party at their place. Small thing. Just family. Dad, Mom, me. Kara couldn't make it because of work. I almost bailed too, but Mom had specifically asked me to come. Should have trusted my gut. Dinner was normal enough. Dean grilled steaks. Roxy played hostess. Dad talked about his latest poker wins. Mom tried to keep conversation light. I mostly stayed quiet, ate my food, counted down until I could leave. After dinner, Dean and Dad went outside to look at something on Dean's truck. Mom was in the kitchen helping Roxy with dishes. I was sitting in the living room scrolling my phone. Roxy came out of the kitchen, said she needed to grab something from the garage, walked past me. Then she came back through, stopped in front of where I was sitting. I looked up from my phone. She leaned down and kissed me, not like a peck on the cheek, full on, right on the mouth, her hand on my shoulder. I froze, completely froze. My brain just shut down. I couldn't process what was happening, couldn't move, couldn't push her away. That's how it works sometimes when you're on the spectrum. Unexpected social situations just crash the whole system. She pulled back after maybe 2 seconds, looked at me with this weird expression. Not romantic, not embarrassed, calculating. The front door opened. Dean and Dad came back inside. Dean saw us. Saw Roxy standing close to me. Saw whatever expression was on my face. His whole body changed. Face went red. He came at me fast. I didn't even see the first punch coming. Caught me in the jaw. Knocked me sideways into the wall. "Wait," I tried to say something. He hit me again. In the ribs. Grabbed my shirt. Shoved me back against the wall. Mom came running from the kitchen. Started screaming. Tried to pull Dean back. He shoved her away. Dad grabbed Dean's shoulder. Pulled him off me. I thought he was stopping it. Instead, he looked at me with pure disgust. Then he slapped me. Hard. Across the face. My ears rang. "You have 30 seconds to get out of my sight. If I ever see you again, Dean won't be the only one throwing punches. You're no longer my son." Disowned. Just like that. Roxy was crying now, shaking. He forced himself on me. I pushed him away, but he wouldn't stop. This has been building for months. He's been making me uncomfortable at every family gathering. I was too scared to say anything. My brain was still crashed from the kiss. Now it was completely offline. I just stood there, mouth open, blood on my lip, no words coming out. Mom looked at me. I could see her trying to decide. She looked away first. "Get out," Dean said. "If you ever come near Roxy again, I'll finish what I started." Dad stepped closer. I left. Didn't say anything. Couldn't. My jaw hurt. My ribs hurt. I got in my car, drove home, sat in my apartment staring at nothing. My phone started blowing up an hour later. Text from Dean, from Dad, from Mom, all saying the same thing. Stay away from the family. Roxy had posted something on Instagram. Not vague this time. Explicit. He touched me. I said no. He didn't stop. I'm speaking up now to protect others. My name wasn't tagged, but everyone knew who it was. The comments started rolling in. People from high school, cousins, friends of friends, all connecting the dots. Then came the direct messages. Roxy had messaged Kara, told her she should be careful around me, that I had issues, that I was dangerous. She'd sent similar messages to my coworkers, to mutual friends, spreading the accusation like wildfire. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Messages asking what I'd done. Messages calling me a creep. Messages from people cutting me off without asking my side. Kara found out from Roxy's message before I could call her. She came over. What happened? I told her everything. The kiss. Me freezing. Dean attacking me. Dad disowning me. Roxy's accusation. She listened. Is it true? Did you do what she said? No. She kissed me and I froze. I never made any advance on her. I believe you. This sounds like manipulation. Then she paused. I need time to think. This is a lot to process. My friends know Dean and Roxy. Taking your side would make things complicated. What's there to think about if you believe me? Sometimes being right doesn't matter if the fallout is too big. She didn't call. Sent a text a week later. We should end things. It's not about not believing you. It's about not wanting to deal with the aftermath. I understood perfectly. When things got hard, she bailed. And that's when something shifted in me. I wasn't sad anymore, wasn't hurt or confused. I was done being the victim, done being the family punching bag. I wanted revenge. My cousin Wes was the only person who stayed in contact. He was my age, lived across town, and had always been cool with me. I called him 2 days after the dinner party, told him everything that happened. He didn't question it, just said that sounded exactly like something Roxy would do. He'd always gotten weird vibes from her. I told him I wanted to destroy her, wanted to prove she was lying. Wes said he was in. We started investigating that same week. Wes suggested we watch her, track her movements and see if there was anything we could use. Maybe she'd slip up. I started following her routine, kept my distance, learned her schedule. Nothing illegal, just observation. Dean worked late 3 nights a week. Roxy knew his schedule. I figured if she was doing anything shady, it'd be on those nights. 3rd week of watching her, I hit gold. Dean was working late, posted about it on social media around 6. Roxy left their condo at 7:30, got dressed up, full makeup, tight dress. I followed her to a restaurant across town, upscale place. She went inside. I parked where I could see through the front windows, pulled out my phone, started recording. She sat down at a table where a guy was already waiting, not someone from family events. He stood up when she arrived, kissed her, not a friendly peck, a real kiss, the kind you give someone you're sleeping with. I recorded the whole thing, them holding hands across the table, him touching her face, her laughing. None of it was innocent. They stayed for 2 hours, left together, got into his car. I followed them to his apartment building, watched them go inside. She didn't come out for 4 hours, came out looking disheveled. I had it all on my phone. Video, photos, timestamps, proof. But I didn't stop there. Followed her 2 more times that week. Same pattern, different guy each time. She had a whole rotation going, 3 guys minimum, all while playing the traumatized victim on social media. Wes helped me organize everything, built a timeline, matched her movements to Dean's work schedule, found receipts she'd posted on social media, cross-referenced everything until we had an airtight case. She wasn't just a cheater, she was systematic about it, and she'd been doing it for months, long before the dinner party. I spent 2 days planning exactly how to approach it. Had to be strategic, had to be airtight. I contacted her through a burner phone number, told her we needed to meet. She tried to refuse. I told her she'd want to hear this. Sent her 1 photo, just 1. Her and restaurant guy kissing through the window. She agreed to meet. We met at a coffee shop, public place, busy. She showed up looking nervous. I laid out everything methodically, didn't raise my voice, didn't get emotional, just showed her the evidence piece by piece. Restaurant guy, apartment guy, hotel guy, dates, times, photos, videos. Here's how this works, I said. You admit on recording that you kissed me at the dinner party, that I never touched you inappropriately, that I froze and did nothing, that you lied when Dean walked in, or I send everything I have to Dean, to your family, to your friends, and post it all publicly. These photos are fake. You manipulated them. You're insane. I didn't engage. Just pulled up more evidence. Showed her timestamps. Showed her the metadata proving they were real. Showed her I had videos. She switched tactics. Started crying. You're being cruel. I made mistakes, but I don't deserve this. You destroyed my life first, over an actual lie. At least my evidence is real. What would Dean think if you exposed all this? Doesn't matter. I have proof. Video proof, photo proof, timeline proof. She sat there for a long time, thinking, calculating, trying to find a way out. There wasn't one. What exactly do you want me to say on the recording? The truth, that you kissed me without my consent, that I froze and didn't reciprocate, that when Dean walked in, you panicked and lied, that you fabricated the assault accusation, that I never touched you inappropriately or made any advances. I need time to think. You have 24 hours. After that, I start posting the evidence. 1 photo per day, 1 video per week. She left without saying anything else. 20 hours later, she called. I'll do it, but you have to promise to delete all the evidence afterward. No deal. I keep the evidence forever. Insurance policy. But I won't post it publicly as long as you cooperate fully. She had no choice. Fine. We met the next day. Same coffee shop. I had my phone ready. I'm recording this. It's legal in our state as long as one party knows. You're the one party. Do you understand and consent? She nodded. Yes. I understand I'm being recorded, and I consent to it. Then she confessed everything. Admitted she'd kissed me without warning, that I'd frozen and never reciprocated, that she'd lied when Dean walked in to cover her panic. Why did you kiss me in the first place? I actually liked you. Like, really liked you. I'd been with Dean for so long and it just felt dead. Then I met you and it was different. I thought maybe if I could get close to you, create some kind of situation, Dean would see it and end things himself. Then I wouldn't have to be the one to pull the trigger, you know? I could walk away clean. I didn't expect Dean to walk in at that exact moment. Didn't expect it to spiral the way it did. I stopped the recording. Saved 3 copies to different locations. Cloud storage. External drive. Email to myself. She asked if we were done. Almost. You have one more thing to do. Tell Dean the truth. That wasn't part of the deal. The deal was you cooperate fully, or I post everything. Telling Dean is part of cooperation. She tried to argue. I didn't budge. 2 days later, I went to their condo. Dean answered the door. Saw me standing there. His face went dark. You need to hear this, I said. Roxy has something to tell you. She came to the door. Dean looked confused. Roxy lied about me. She's going to explain everything, Roxy told him, stumbling over the words. Crying, but she told him. I kissed him. He never touched me. I lied when you walked in. He was telling the truth the whole time. Dean just stood there, staring at her, processing. I could see it happening. The realization. The betrayal. Why? Why would you do that? She gave him some excuse about being confused, about making a mistake. Didn't mention the cheating? I didn't either. That wasn't part of my deal with her. Dean looked at me, started to say something. I'll see you in court, I said. Left before either of them could say anything else. The recording was all I needed. Proof that she'd lied. Proof that I'd been innocent. Now came the fun part, making them all pay for it. 15 months after Dean borrowed the money, I filed a lawsuit in small claims court for the full amount owed, plus interest and late fees. $22,000 total. Dean thought I was bluffing right up until the court summons arrived. He called me from an unknown number. You're making a huge mistake. Suing family is crossing a line. Why didn't you press charges if it was true? Why didn't Roxy file a police report? He didn't have an answer. The lawsuit is harassment. See you in court. I hung up. He showed up with Roxy and Dad, all 3 of them looking like this was an inconvenience. The court asked Dean to present his case. He explained that yes, he'd borrowed the money. Yes, he'd signed a promissory note, but the loan was predatory. 7% interest was excessive. The court looked unimpressed. Asked if anyone had forced Dean to sign. Dean said no, but I'd manipulated him. I pulled out the text messages from before he'd asked for the loan. Dean bragging about winning streaks at poker. Planning to bet big? Didn't look very desperate. Then I showed the messages after the loan. Dean thanking me, calling me a lifesaver, promising to pay me back. The court asked about the missed payments. Dean stammered. Said he'd been dealing with a lot. I showed his social media posts from the same period. Photos at poker games. A new watch. The engagement ring. The court ruled in my favor. Full amount plus court costs. Ordered Dean to pay within 60 days or face wage garnishment. Dean looked stunned. Dad looked furious. Dean didn't pay within 60 days. I filed for wage garnishment. His employer started taking $400 per paycheck and sending it to me. That's when I filed the real lawsuit. 3 weeks after the wage garnishment started, I filed a civil lawsuit in district court against Dean for assault, defamation, and intentional infliction of emotional distress, against Roxy for false accusation, defamation, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. I used a lawyer this time. Guy who worked on contingency. Wes found him. He loved the case. Said it was clean, well documented, and he could smell settlement money. The discovery process was surgical. My lawyer started with Roxy's recorded confession. Played it in the deposition. Her voice admitting she'd kissed me, that I'd frozen, that I'd never touched her, that she'd lied to cover herself. Her lawyer tried to argue the recording was coerced. My lawyer showed the timestamps, showed that she'd had 24 hours to think about it, showed that she'd agreed voluntarily. Then my lawyer showed the evidence I'd gathered, the screenshots of Roxy's Instagram post explicitly accusing me, the messages she'd sent to Kara and my co-workers, the pattern of her spreading the false accusation to multiple people. My lawyer documented every person she'd contacted, every message she'd sent, every public statement she'd made. Each one was a separate count of defamation. Each one showed malice and intent to destroy my reputation. Then came the videos of Roxy with other men, the timeline proving she'd been cheating for months. My lawyer argued this showed her character and her willingness to lie to protect herself. Roxy's deposition fell apart. She kept changing details. First, she said she'd only confessed because I'd threatened her. Then she said maybe she'd been confused. Then she tried to say the confession didn't count because she'd been under duress. My lawyer asked her to define duress, asked if being shown evidence of her own cheating counted as duress, asked her to explain why she'd posted explicit accusations on social media without filing a police report, asked her to explain why she'd messaged my girlfriend and co-workers if the assault had really happened. She didn't have good answers. Dean's deposition was almost worse. He admitted he'd hit me, justified it by saying he'd believed Roxy. My lawyer asked if any brother would have hit first and asked questions later. If any brother would have assaulted someone based on an accusation with zero evidence. Dean said the evidence was Roxy's word. My lawyer played Roxy's confession, asked Dean if her word was still good enough, now that she'd admitted she'd lied. Dean said that was different. She'd only confessed because I'd forced her. My lawyer asked how showing someone evidence of their infidelity was forcing them. Dean didn't have an answer. While the civil case moved forward, I deployed the rest of my strategy. First, I reported Dad's poker games to local law enforcement. Running regular cash games in your home without proper licensing is illegal in our state. I had documentation, dates from Dean's social media posts, photos showing cash on tables, everything a prosecutor needed. The cops raided one of Dad's games on a Saturday night, caught 8 guys, including Dean, with thousands in cash on the table, charged Dad with operating an illegal gambling operation. Dad called me from jail. First time I'd heard his voice in over a year. He was screaming, "You destroyed the family!" I let him finish. "Did you use your one phone call to yell at me, or do you want to call a lawyer?" He hung up. The gambling charges meant Dean's employer did a deeper background check. Found the wage garnishment, found the pending civil lawsuit, found the criminal charges. They demoted him. Cut his pay by 20 grand a year. Then I contacted the IRS. During discovery, I'd found something interesting. Dad and Dean had been gambling for years. Sometimes they won big. Those winnings? Never reported on tax returns. The IRS loves tips about unreported income, especially when you have documentation. They got audited, both of them. The IRS found about $60,000 in unreported gambling winnings between them over 5 years. Dad owed $42,000, Dean owed $18,000. They put liens on everything. Dad's house, his car, Dean's condo. Dean's condo went into foreclosure within 4 months. The garnishment plus the IRS payments plus his reduced income meant he couldn't make the mortgage. He moved into a 1-bedroom apartment in a rough part of town. Same kind of place I'd lived in for years, while saving money. Roxy left him 2 months after he lost the condo. Posted something vague about different paths. Moved in with one of the guys she'd been cheating with. Dean's friends tagged him in the post. Dad showed up at my apartment 6 months after the IRS liens hit. He looked terrible. Thinner than I'd ever seen him. His house was in foreclosure. The IRS had garnished his pension. He was living in a motel. He stood at my door like a ghost. "I need help. The IRS is taking everything. I'm going to lose the house. I don't have anywhere else to go." I stared at him. This was the man who'd slapped me, who'd disowned me, who'd chosen to believe a liar over his own son. You told me I was no longer your son. Remember that? I was wrong. I know that now. Please. I'm begging you. I need money. Just enough to stop the foreclosure. 20,000. I'll pay you back. Like Dean paid me back? This is different. I'm desperate. I'm your father. You stopped being my father the night you hit me and threw me out. He started crying. Actually crying. I made a mistake. I was angry. I believed Roxy. But I know the truth now. Please. I have nowhere else to turn. I thought about being 11 years old, watching him take my birthday money, thought about every time he'd chosen Dean over me, every time he'd made me feel worthless. You should have thought about that before you hit me, before you chose to believe someone who was lying, before you spent 18 months not caring if I was okay. What do you want me to say? I'm sorry. I'm begging you. Please. I want you to understand something. This is what happens when you treat people like they're disposable, when you only care about them when you need something. You're not getting a penny from me. Figure it out yourself. I'll lose everything. Good. Maybe you'll learn something. He stood there for another minute. Then he turned and left. I watched him walk down the hall, hunched over, broken. I closed the door. Didn't feel good about it. Didn't feel bad either. Just felt like justice. The civil case went to mediation after 16 months. Their lawyers were desperate for settlement. My lawyer said we could win bigger at trial, but I was fine with mediation. They were already destroyed. They offered $15,000 to make it go away. My lawyer laughed, pointed out my documented damages included lost relationships, reputational harm, assault, and emotional distress, plus legal fees, plus punitive damages, plus the explicit public accusations Roxy had made that were still findable online. We countered with $70,000. They said they didn't have it. My lawyer showed them the asset discovery. They could find the money. We settled somewhere between $35,000 and $60,000, plus written confessions from both of them, plus formal apologies, plus a binding agreement that they'd never contact me again unless I initiated it. The confessions were part of the settlement. Public record. Watching Dean admit he'd assaulted me based on lies, that he'd chosen to believe his cheating fiancé over his brother without asking for evidence. Watching Roxy's written confession match her recorded one. Admitting she'd fabricated the assault accusation. Admitting she'd posted false accusations on social media and messaged multiple people with lies about me. I posted them on social media, sent copies to everyone who'd heard the original accusation. Sent a copy to Kara, too. Didn't include a message. She didn't respond. Didn't apologize. The money hit my account on a Friday. I paid my lawyer his cut, paid Wes back for his help, put the rest toward a house down payment and investments. 2 weeks later, Mom filed for divorce from Dad. Apparently watching your husband choose gambling over your son, then lose everything because of it, has a way of clarifying things. 10 months after the settlement, Mom reached out, asked if we could meet for coffee, said she understood if I said no. I almost ignored it, almost blocked her number. But something in the message felt different. I agreed to meet. Public place. 1 hour limit. She showed up early. Looked older than I remembered. The divorce had been brutal. Cost her most of her inheritance in legal fees. I'm sorry. Not because I want something. Just because I failed you, and I need you to know I understand that. Why now? Why after everything's over? I needed distance from your father to see clearly. Being married to him twisted my judgment. Watching the settlement documents, reading the confessions, seeing the evidence that proved you'd been telling the truth. It broke something in me. Do you expect forgiveness? No, I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to know I finally understand what I did. We finished our coffee. Maybe we could meet again sometime. No promises. She nodded. That's more than I deserve. She calls occasionally now. Just checking in. Never pushing. Never demanding. I don't know if I'll ever fully forgive her. The damage is permanent, but she's trying. Right after the settlement went public, Kara reached out. Long text about how she'd always known I was innocent. How she'd been scared. Made a mistake. I read it twice. Then I realized she just regretted her choice now that I'd been vindicated. I met her for lunch. Same place we used to go. She looked nervous. Kept talking fast. I should have stood by you. I was wrong. I let her finish. Did you believe me when it happened? Yes. Immediately. I never doubted your story. Then why did you leave? She got quiet. Started explaining again. The drama. The social complications. I understood the first time. You believed me. But it was inconvenient. It wasn't that simple. You're being unfair. People make mistakes. And those mistakes show you who they are when things get hard. You've changed. Gotten cold. That guy died the night Dean hit me and everyone walked away. I want to make it right. We could start over. Would you have reached out if I'd lost the case? She didn't answer. I finished my coffee. I hope you have a good life. Left her sitting there. She texted a few more times, then stopped. I'm 29 now. Got promoted to shift supervisor at the warehouse 2 years ago. Got promoted again last year to logistics coordinator. Working on a supply chain management certification. Wes and I still hang out most weekends. He's gotten into hiking. Dragged me along a few times. Turns out walking through quiet woods is perfect when your brain runs too loud. Met someone last year. Quinn. She's a librarian. We met when I was looking for books on logistics. Need recommendations? She asked. We talked for 20 minutes. Most natural conversation I'd ever had. She thinks my autism stuff is interesting. Actually interesting, not polite interesting. Asks questions about how I process things. Adapts without making it a big deal. I told her about my family on our 4th date. She just listened. When I finished, she asked, "Are you okay now?" Mostly. Good. I'm glad you got away from them. Hasn't brought it up since unless I mention it first. We've been together 8 months. Taking it slow. No drama. No manipulation. Dad's worse. Lost the house eventually. Lives in a studio apartment now. Still gambling what little money he has. Still blaming me. Mom got a small apartment after the divorce settled. Works part-time, lives quiet. We have coffee once a month. Not forgiveness. Just acknowledgement that she's trying. Roxy moved out of state with the guy she'd been cheating with. They broke up 6 months later. Last I heard, she was bartending somewhere in Arizona. The lawsuit becoming public record killed her real estate career. 6 months ago, Dean showed up at my door. Hadn't seen him in person since the settlement. He looked rough. I've been thinking a lot about what happened, about what Roxy did, about how I reacted. I want to apologize. Really apologize. Not the court-ordered one. A real one. I stood in the doorway. Didn't invite him in. I was wrong. About everything. I should have asked questions before hitting you. Should have demanded evidence before believing Roxy. Should have been a better brother. I understand if you never forgive me. Just wanted you to know I finally get it. What do you want? What do you expect this apology to accomplish? Nothing. Just wanted to say it. I heard you. Doesn't mean I accept it. He nodded. I understand. Started to leave. Then he stopped. Is there any chance we could ever talk again? Maybe get coffee sometime? No. Some bridges don't get rebuilt. What you did wasn't just a mistake. It was a choice. A series of choices. To trust a cheater over family. To hit first and ask questions never. To let that stand for 18 months without ever questioning if you'd been wrong. I don't hate you. Don't think about you much at all anymore. But I don't want you in my life either. He looked hurt. I understand. I deserve that. Lose my address. If you show up again, I'll file a restraining order. He left. Guys, we are so close to hit 100,000 subscribers on this channel. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. It really helps hit that 100,000 mark. Thanks for making this dream come true.